Just when I thought the parts table was starting to get empty and I was starting to get a little bit organized, we got more parts, baby. We got the front mount intercooler kit and I got all the intercooler pipes coated. We got an absolute mess here. We got all the couplers for the front mount kit. I just dumped it all out onto the bench because there is so much shit. All the hose clamps, all the hardware, stickers. We can't put this on the car though, because then people know we're fast if we have ETS stuff. So we're gonna hide these ones, maybe on the interior somewhere. So what is going on, you guys, and welcome back to the channel. Hope you guys are chilling out, having a good day, you know, ready to watch me put some Go Fast parts on finally. Because in today's video, since the cold side housing for my turbo is getting coated right now, we're gonna get the front mount intercooler installed. So my whole ETS shipment finally showed up. I got a 3.5-inch front mount intercooler, which was actually pretty sick because I ordered the 3-inch, but then ETS was like, oh, we're all out of 3-inch ones. Do you want the 3.5-inch? I was like, yeah. So they sent me out the 3.5-inch one. I got it coated black from ETS and I got the stencil put on it. And then my front mount intercooler pipes, the Wheel Clinic Edmonton hooked it up again. I'm just gonna cool edit of this shit. It's so dope. So the first thing I'm gonna be doing with this front mount intercooler install is I obviously already have the front bumper off the car because a lot of shit's still torn apart on this thing. So I'm gonna get the front mount intercooler core mounted up on the front of the car. That way I can start at the front and work my way to the back to route it to the throttle body and the turbo and everything like that. So I'm gonna get this intercooler core mounted up on there and then I'll show you guys what I use to mount it. Okay, that looks sick. Once I took the cardboard off and I saw the stencil, oh my God, that thing's huge. Okay, so to mount it, I'll just show you guys, there's 3 mounting locations, 2 on the side where the old bumper beam used to go and 1 up top. You just gotta take the bottom hood latch bolt out. ETS actually gives you a little baggie full of bolts and spacers, and ETS doesn't have any instructions, I'm assuming for liability purposes. They don't wanna tell you how to install it and then you mess it up and then you come after them. So they let you just figure it out yourself, which is good because I don't usually read instructions anyways. So the way I mounted this with their spacers and supplied bolts, on both side brackets, I used the big spacer that was in the kit and the long bolt. And then on the top, I used the medium length bolt and the smaller spacer in behind there. And to show you guys in behind here, there actually is quite a bit of clearance. I didn't have to bend much in behind. I just zip tied the wires for the ambient temperature sensor there. And then I have my Helihorn wires just tucked to the side because I don't know if I'm gonna be running Helihorns yet. So we'll figure those out later. The only piece I had to bend was that bracket right in the middle there. So if you look underneath here, this bracket right up front actually stuck straight out. I just folded it completely upside down so that it's tucked like this and it does not touch anywhere, which is good. I was scared I was gonna have to cut some of this to mount this, and it just got the engine bay painted, so I didn't want to because it's all sealed and none of it's gonna rust. So that's good, I didn't have to cut any of this. But now that we got the intercooler completely mounted up on the front, I'm gonna go ahead and run all my intercooler piping, get all those silicone hose couplers on there. And then after I do that, I'll show you guys where all of the piping routes and where each coupler goes and everything like that. Let's get it. All right, it is the next day, again, because this is taking me a while to get this stuff in. But I got the front mount piping completely installed for the most part. That's just a little sneak peek, probably for the next video. Oh my God, that's gonna look so sick. Anyways, to show you guys which pipes I used and where each pipe went. First off, I got this small straight coupler on the driver's side of the intercooler, and I got 2 of the hose clamps that they supply you on there. Then there is a pipe that's like kind of like a 90-degree bend almost, that comes up and goes between your headlight and your washer fluid fill. Then that pipe comes up to here. Then I got this like 45-degree silicone coupler with another 2 of the hose clamps they supply you. Then we got this, I don't know what the hell degree that is, but this hose that kind of kinks twice, going to another straight silicone coupler with another 2 hose clamps on it. And then this pipe that has the flange for your blow-off valve and the flange for your intake air temp sensor on it. That goes to this little reducer silicone clamp. And there is one hose clamp that's bigger than all the other ones in diameter. And that one's gonna go on the big side of this coupler that goes to your throttle body. Now I still have this hose loose. I just have these 2 hose clamps loose so that I can get the blow-off valve on here next and route my vacuum line to the blow-off valve and get the blow-off valve V-banded onto the intercooler piping. Now for the other side, you got this hard pipe that bolts up to the intake manifold on the front here. It runs under, it's gonna hook up to the cold side housing of my turbo right there. But then on this side, I used another one of these 45-degree bend hoses, 2 hose clamps on either side again, and it goes to this hose that's kind of like a maybe 75-degree hose that comes down to another straight silicone coupler with 2 hose clamps on it. And then on the passenger side, I have another straight silicone hose with 2 hose clamps on it. And then you got this hard line that wraps around where your crash bar mounts right there. I ran the wires for the whatever the hell this thing is. I have no idea what it is, but I'm gonna leave it there because I don't know what it is. And then your horn sits here. I'm gonna have to relocate my horn a little bit to get it to fit. But then that hose comes around here, goes straight up to this straight silicone coupler, which from the top of the engine bay is right here. Then one other thing I'll show you guys that I had to do. I'm not sure if maybe I routed the pipes wrong or anything. I don't think I did, but my intercooler piping was actually hitting the frame of the car right here when I was putting it in. So I just bent up that lip there a little bit just so that the intercooler piping wasn't constantly contacting the frame. But that's about all I had to do modification wise. Everything else kind of bolted right up and the fitment is actually super nice. So the next thing I'm going to do is I'm going to get that tile blow-off valve installed to the intercooler piping. But before I do that, I did want to show you guys 2 things about this tile blow-off valve. So first thing is this vacuum nipple is not going to come pre-installed. There's going to be 2 washers on the bolt when you get it, and they're both going to be on the top here. You're going to put 1 crush washer on the top and 1 on the bottom of this fitting. And once you do that, you can get this bolt tightened up in whichever way you're going to route this vacuum line. So I'm just going to leave that loose for now because I don't know how I'm going to orientate it once I get it on there. And then the other thing is this O-ring that sits on the side that meets up to the intercooler piping. The O-ring right now is sitting inside of the V-band groove on the blow-off valve when it comes. You're going to want to take it out of there. And then the O-ring is going to sit right on this little groove here on this V-band to seal up so you don't get any boost leaks. And I'll show you guys that in just a sec. So first thing we're going to do, like I said, this O-ring is going to sit right in the groove here on your intercooler pipe. You might have to hold it with your hands. I'm not 100% sure if this is going to stay, but it looks like it's staying for now. Then you're going to take your blow-off valve, orientate it how you want it, and it is going to seat on that V-band there against that O-ring. Then you're going to slide your V-band clamp over top. Holy shit, this is hard. Come on, baby. There we go. Oh, I bent that pretty good. And then the lip on this V-band clamp is going to catch the blow-off valve and the intercooler piping. Then on your V-band clamp, you're going to have these 2 little pieces. One is threaded, one is not, just to let the bolt pass through. So I'm going to install the bolt facing this way. So I'm going to slide this pass-through one in there without knocking the blow-off valve off, hopefully, just like that. And then we're going to slide the threaded one into this other side and rotate it so the bolt grabs. And we're going to need to use some force here to get this to start the threads. Come on, baby. Grab. There we go. Now it grabbed. But I really do not want this clamp sitting at the top. So I'm going to see if I can rotate it all the way around so that it will be on the bottom, and I'll have a nice clean flat surface up top. There we go. Now I want the tile logo facing up too. We'll leave that like that. Now you can take your ratchet and just tighten up that Allen key on the bottom there. That doesn't need to be overly tight. Just get it nice and tight until your blow-off valve is solid on there and it's gonna seal. Now what I can do is I can get this vacuum nipple routed to where I need it to be. I'm probably gonna need to cut this hose because this is still the factory hose that just goes down to the bottom of your intake manifold there. All right, so I got the hose. I braided it in that same braid that I'm doing all the lines on the rest of the engine bay. And I cut the hose right at the bottom of the bend that was there before that went to the factory bypass valve. And now it should line up good with my fitting on here. I still have to tighten it, but I wanna get the vacuum line on there first before I tighten that up. So I am going to route this down to where it hooks up to the intake manifold on that little nipple down there. If I can get it on, holy smokes. All right, on there now. Then I'm gonna route it under this AOS line, and then I can get it slid onto this vacuum tee. Once this is on there, this is going to be very, very hard to get off because it is a barbed fitting. So I might honestly unthread this, and then I'll push it on there first. Don't lose the crush washer, please. There we go. I had to take it off of there. It's way too hard to push on. This way I can twist it a little bit, slide it on there. Oh my God, come on. Get in your home. Oh, I should have put some WD-40 on that or something, but it's never gonna come off. We ain't gonna have no vacuum leaks. Come on. Oh, I should have put this on before I put it in the car. All right, we're gonna call that good. We got it all the way on there. Now I can take my little banjo bolt here, separate the crush washers like I said before, have a crush washer on each side of it, and then we can get it threaded into the blow-off valve. If I could find the hole. Oh, there we go. We can grab a little 1/4" ratchet and a 10 mil and just snug that up. Oh, I guess that's gonna rotate with it. So I'm gonna try and hold the vacuum tee while I tighten this up. Don't go too tight. You don't wanna pull the threads right out of it. It's probably tight enough. All right, now that we got the blow-off valve on, my next step, which I probably should have done this before I put the blow-off valve on because it don't look like there's much room here, but I gotta get my AEM IAT sensor threaded into the bung that ETS welded in there for me. And then I gotta run my IAT wires, which I got tucked over here that come out of the harness there. I gotta run these wires over to my IAT sensor. All right, I figured I'd stop here just to show you guys what I'm doing with these wires. So I depin these wires out of the factory MAF sensor. It is the blue and yellow and the red and yellow, or your 2 intake air temp wires that come out of your MAF sensor. So I pulled the IAT wires out of the MAF sensor, ran them this way, and I tucked all the old MAF sensor wires in there because I don't need them anymore because I'm converting to speed density. Now, the factory pins for the factory MAF sensor are actually, there's no way you're gonna be able to see that because they're so tiny, but the factory pins are actually too small to fit the connector that the AEM intake air temp sensor comes with. Because when you buy one of these sensors, it comes with an empty connector, the sensor itself, and 2 new pins that come on a little bar like this, which you need to install the pins onto the wire so that the pins can slide into this new connector. Now, I got one of these pins on here and then I realized, I'm like, oh shit, I should show you guys how to actually do that. So I have one pin on here, completely installed, 100% secure. Now to install a new pin onto a wire, it comes on this bar. You're just gonna bend it pretty much until it comes off of that bar, until it breaks off, just because they're very, very soft metal. Just like that. Throw the bar away. You don't need it no more. Now, you're gonna need a pair of needle nose pliers, and you're gonna need to twist that wire together after you strip it back long enough that it will slide into this pin, and this last little metal tab here goes right at the end of where you stripped it, at the end of where there's copper showing. So once you get it there, I don't know how well you guys can see it or how well a GoPro is gonna pick this out because it doesn't focus very good, but there's gonna be 2 tabs on the front and 2 tabs on the back. The 2 tabs on the front are gonna be wider. The 2 tabs at the back are gonna be smaller. And once you get your wire set in there and it is right back to where the insulation is, you're gonna take a pair of needle nose pliers and you're just gonna bend over one side of that front little lip. Squeeze it with a pair of needle nose pliers just like that. Once you get that one bent down, you're gonna rotate it around and you are gonna do the same thing on the other side and just fold the other side right over the one that you just fold it down. Now all I gotta do is get these back ones, which these back ones, you're gonna do the exact same thing. You're just gonna fold them over the wire on one side, and then you'll take the other side and fold that over the wire as well. And then you're gonna squeeze them all, make sure they are nice and tight. You don't wanna have any pin fit issues here where your wires aren't making good contact, so your ECU is not gonna get a clean signal from your IAT sensor. And then once you got it on there, just give it a little tug, make sure you don't have any play in it, make sure they're nice and tight. Now that we got both of those pins installed, I can get these pins slid into the new connector. Now on my diagram that I have here, when I figured out which wires were for the intake air temp sensor in the factory MAF sensor, all it does is tell you to take a resistance measurement to check your IAT inside the factory MAF. So they don't tell you which one is your positive and which one is your signal negative. So I'm just gonna send it and take a guess and put each pin in there, and we're gonna pray that I got the positive and negative right. I'm just gonna take a wild guess here and say red is the left one. So we're gonna slide it into the connector from the back, whichever way these go. I don't even know which way these go. Pretty sure they slide in from the back. Just go in. Come on. What the actual fuck? I always talk like I know what I'm doing, and then I get to a point where I can't do something, and then I feel like an idiot. Oh, that's why. I had to cut fresh wires in order to get this to work because I crimped these on here, and you have to install these crimps from the front. Because I realized when I looked at it, that there's those little grooves on the top there of the connector, and then there's a little piece that sticks up on the pin, and I'm only doing this once, but if you slide the wire through the whole connector, that piece lines up perfect. And then you just slide the pin in there, pull the wire through, and click, just like that. Now I got both pins installed. Now I got to solder wires, which is exactly why you repin a connector, so you don't have to solder wires. Now I can just slide the insulation over the wires and slide the insulation into the connector, just like that. There we go. Now we have an intake air temp sensor connector, and I just got to solder the wires onto the wires that I have coming out of the harness here. And then I got to route the wires and plug it into the IAT sensor. All right, so I got my IAT sensor completely wired up, and I'll show you guys real quick how I routed it. My 2 wires that I took out of the MAF sensor, and yes, there's a turbo there. That's for the next video. The 2 wires that I took off the MAF sensor come out of the main harness back there. I just zip tied it to the main harness clip here. It comes up and behind. I zip tied it to the cam position sensor, went under the oil feed line there for the turbo. You guys aren't gonna be able to see this, but I went in front of where the factory PCV valve sits, came up behind the intercooler pipe here, and straight up to my IAT sensor. So now that I got my IAT sensor installed and I got all my intercooler pipes installed, there's one bracket that came with the kit that usually would bolt up to right here on the intake manifold, and then there's one mount right under there. If you still have the mount on your intake manifold, install that bracket to support this. This is pretty solid right now because it sits against the battery right here. One thing I did notice is this kit comes with a couple relocation brackets for the washer fluid tank, but honestly, from what I've seen installing this, I don't think I even need them. You guys can see in there, there's a pretty good gap between the frame and the intercooler pipe there. And the washer fluid tank actually is touching the intercooler pipe, but it's barely touching it right on that little accordion part of the wash fluid tank there. So I'm not too worried about it. And I have good clearance between my headlight too. So I don't really think we need to even move the wash fluid tank. I'm just gonna leave it where it is. So now the last part of installing this front mount intercooler is going to be getting the intercooler pipes hooked up to the cold side of the turbo. Now, you guys will find out more about this once you see my next video on getting the rotated kit installed. But just to sum it up real quick, I got sent the wrong turbo kit. I got sent a precision rotated turbo kit, not a Garrett rotated turbo kit. And there's a lot of differences. I go more into depth in the next video, but just for this video's sake, I'm not gonna show you guys me putting the silicone coupler from the turbo to the intercooler pipe that routes under the intake manifold, specifically because precision turbos have a 2.5-inch outlet, I believe here, and Garrett turbos have a 2-inch. So the one that I was supplied with the kit is a 2.5-inch to 2.5-inch, and obviously with the way this turbo is sitting, that is not even close, and it's not gonna work whatsoever. So like I said, me modifying that is gonna be something for the next video. I don't wanna go in depth on explaining this one when I'm just gonna have to do it when I get the turbo kit installed. So that's gonna be it for this video. I hope you guys enjoyed it. This front mount looks absolutely unreal. I am so happy with how all of this is coming out. I can't wait to get the rotated kit on the car. All we got left is rotated kit, gauges, gotta get that Tomei on. Then we pretty much just gotta prime the system and fire it up. So let's keep grinding. I got more videos to make. Thank you guys for watching. That's gonna be it for this one. Peace out. I will catch you guys in the next one.